getting guys on base. You have opportunity. You're getting the blood flowing a little bit. So that was a really good deal for them to keep, to
4
keep him
years,
for 4
$50
years.
million, by the way.
Yeah, bargain.
But that tells you, though, about arbitration. If your star player, any fan base, if your star player has to go to arbitration,
excuse me,
that's an indication.
Yeah, and I don't think he's their star player. He's a good player.
Well, but you put him on another team outside the Mets, who are now stacked. You put him on another team, he's considered more than just a mid-level type player. I mean, come on, in 4 years, $50 million, you're bordering on star status. Although Brandon Nimmo is probably not a star, and he got a really big contract.
So. He got a real big contract, yeah.
All right. Email is jimbopodcast21@gmail.com if you do indeed have any questions. This week on cross-functionality, Cassie Riley Boscia and I, we discussed dealing with failure, how athletes could deal with failure. Now, looking at it from the lens of hitting, how do hitters deal with failure? Is there such thing as too much failure? And how can hitters propel themselves, take that failure, and then turn it into success going forward?
There can be too much failure. And sometimes at the amateur ages, it's tough because you want to push your kid. Maybe you have a good, whatever, you got a good 12-year-old and you want them to play, instead of 12U, you want to play 14U. They go to 14U and they just get hammered all the time. Yes, they're getting great experience, but maybe it's tough. And you can only go like 1 for 10 in the tournament so long before you get upset. So there's a fine line between playing and having success, even if it's artificial success. Like, yeah, I'm better than the competition, but man, this is fun. I'm getting on base every time. I'm rounding first. I'm going to second. Sometimes that plays a big part in keeping players active, keeping players in the game. But if you're out there and you're struggling just to compete, it's almost like you're borderline drowning every at bat. Or if you're a pitcher, you're getting shelled all the time. It's really tough. So being, struggling and having failures, that's part of the game. And that's why sports are great, because it prepares you for life. You're not always going to be number one at the office. You're not going to be number one in your class, your graduating class, and you're not going to get an A on every test. But how do we deal with that? How do we got a D on a test? You've been an A or B student, you got a D on your test. What can we learn from that? Let's meet with our professor. Now we have communication skills. We're talking to people in a position of authority, and then that person tells us, well, this is, maybe you should change the way you were studying for this test. What did we struggle with? So it forces you to dissect the situation, dissect the failure. Why am I failing? As a hitting coach, why is my player 1 for 30 right now? Okay, well, let's figure out the cause of that. Is it pitches? Are we swinging at bad pitches? Okay. Is it timing and rhythm? No, that looks good. Are our hands getting loaded late? Okay, it looks like they are. You're kind of rushing your hands back a little bit more. Okay, now we have a solution to the problem. Let's work on that. And when a player has a solution, even if it's not the right solution, it is a very mental game. This could be a made-up solution. As a hitting coach, you know what? I think you should open your stance a little bit because you're not really seeing the ball with your back eye as much. What a load of crap that could be. But you know what? It gives a player another feel. Oh, that's probably why I'm not hitting. It's not because of my confidence. It's because I'm not seeing the ball with both eyes. Okay, I make that adjustment. All of a sudden, I find a few barrels off the machine. I have a good BP. I go 1 for 2 in the game. Now I'm back and ready to go. So good hitting coaches have to be creative, but they have to be problem solvers. And as a player, if you're a 14-year-old player, I don't expect this 14-year-old player to know why they're failing all the time. That's why they come to me. That's why, Jake, I was hitting the ball so great at the beginning of the season. Boom, here's some video of the last weekend. I was really bad. Okay, I know what the problem is. Here it is. Work on this. Get it done. And then, boom, they'll have some success. So sometimes it's really hard as a player, but, I guess the best way to deal with failures is to figure out why you're failing, because you're going to fail again. If you go 1 for 20, you're going to go 1 for 20 again sometime in your life. What was it? What caused it? I gave the example of a player loading their hands too late. They usually load it when they pick up their foot in stride. Now, all of a sudden, they're loading it when their foot's coming down and they're late on everything. Okay, we've fixed that problem. Now you've gone on and had some success. Maybe 6 months later, all of a sudden, we're having the same issue, and you're 1 for, say, 7, and you feel like you're late on everything. What are we going to go back to? Well, let's go back to the hands. That was what bothered us last time. That's what caused us to fail last time. Let's see if we can nip that in the bud early. And instead of going 1 for 20 or 1 for 30, we went 1 for 10, and then we fix that problem. So we're learning from the mistakes, because similar mistakes will always haunt the same player. They're not going to just randomly come up with a new mechanical issue or a new load issue, right? It's in their DNA. And what we have to do is be able to snuff that problem early before it gets out of control.